10 o'clock precisely. Calling the meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners for July 16th, 2025 to order at 10 a.m. Let's have you lead the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Mr. Chang Crowley. President Slater Carter. Commissioner Batouche.
Present.
Mr. Zemke.
Present.
Mr. Damrat.
Present.
Into item C, public comments, questions. I see no one in the audience. We have folks online who would like to speak. Seeing no public comment in either location, we'll move on to commissioner comments.
Exciting to see all the things being assembled and the pipe for the dredge project, the big crane at the launch ramp. And just thinking that we're all part of this and we finally brought this to the start of making it happen after all these years.
I'm going to echo what Tom just said and just note that I've heard from residents here and they're just very excited and they're just like, oh God, it's about time. And I'm like, yes, it is. And we're getting it going.
Yes.
So thank you.
George.
I'll third that, and I've been hearing from a lot of the surfing community who are very excited about what will happen at the Surfer Beach portion. Trying to explain to them what they're gonna see early on in the the August timeframe and then September timeframe. So yeah, a lot of very positive interest in as we go forward. So.
Oh, I just wanted to note that on the 25th of June, I did attend the city council meeting in South San Francisco. They had a proposal to waive the fees for the project at the Oyster Point for the installation of the new ramps on Dock 76. And they did approve that, which saves us $90,000, which is nice. Also, at that same time, I think that we had some miscommunications between the contractor, ourselves, and the city on, what was needed and what was going to be done, and some of the work there, the pre-work there, as far as making the paths, I think got the park department pretty upset about what it did to the landscaping that was just installed 5 years ago by Philroy. And I think that's smoothed over. I know that there was, I think, a stop work order was in effect for a while. But one thing I did tell the council that this may or may not have pointed that, but the liaison committee that we have with South San Francisco has not been meeting as regularly as it has in the past, but and that I would really push them and us to really make an effort to get the liaison committee back together. That would help facilitate, I think, the communication between ourselves and the city.
I agree with that, Bill, because I was in part of the email chain for that. And I'm like, we need to have a liaison committee meeting.
We have one scheduled.
No, but I mean, is that gonna work for just twice a year, especially when there's so much activity going down there at Oyster Point? It just, I don't know, maybe it's decreasing, Bill. I haven't been there in months, actually. Is the activity level decreasing, or should we like have more instead of two meetings?
I think twice a year is good, but I think we've been busy, they've been busy, and it's just something that's kind of fallen through the cracks over time, but I think we need to pay attention to it.
Maybe it should be increased twice a year to quarterly.
I think it
think
depends.
They're doing it once a year. Or there was, for some reason, we're not quite sure, the design and engineering and contractor and the city weren't communicating.
Right.
And Found that out after we issued our contract, after we approved all the design and after we started work. The city then came back. Now, I do think a little harsh, getting upset over some landscaping that can be easily remedied and fixed, which was the plan, was to put it, you gotta move some things around and replant after you're done. They got excited over that, which, with an over response. However, working with the city manager and working with our staffs on both sides, we've smoothed a lot of that over, but we're still having significant permitting issues on a project that's been approved and permitted by everybody else but the city. So now we just got a response back date from the city about when the permits will be issued, and it's all, we cannot determine that at this time. So we're in a waiting period, and hopefully it doesn't push the project another year, but there's a good chance it will.
Well, I just got an update from the legislative group that I'm part of. And it said that there's a new bill that was signed and went into effect recently, probably July 3rd. And it says that permits, certain classes of permits need to be approved within 60 days of application. Trish, maybe you could look into that and see what projects of the Harbor District type this would apply to. I can get you the number after the meeting when I can look it up on my phone, but.
And I believe the city's would meet that 60-day requirement regardless, so. But yeah, I saw that same thing.
I just felt like there didn't seem like there was good coordination and communication, and I agree, Bill, that probably we just haven't had. Maybe the meetings won't help as much, but at least we all be kind of on the
Kind of
same
talking.
page.
I think, and it might be part of it, might be some internal communication between
Yeah.
different departments within South City.
Yeah.
That I know Josh Richardson, who I do know, is the park superintendent, was really kind of hot about this because he wasn't told about it by the building inspection department.
Exactly.
So-
Well,
That's-
and
that's the
that's
coordination.
my experience with the county, with many projects, has been that even when two different departments are on the same floor, it's like
Yeah.
there's a
There's
Berlin
silos.
wall there.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't communicate, it's soundproofed on either side.
Staff's working together. and
Yeah.
Well, that's the important part.
Given everything that they requested, we provided to them now.
When is the meeting scheduled, Jim? I'm looking, I
I-
have it on my calendar.
Was it September? No,
No, I'll find out and I'll email everyone.
Should it be earlier than September? Well, I don't know. Maybe not, because August, no one's really. I don't know.
Oh, well,
Okay, we just need to
we
find out.
don't need to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's later. Any more comments? Moving on from commissioner comments, activity reports, general manager.
Good morning, commissioners. It was a very busy month with respect to several of our projects. You've seen the pipe and everything else at the harbor, and you'll get a brief on that. But in the background, with the word of 2024, the Army Corps was asking for, or indicated they needed a letter for a non-federal sponsor for the project. So we drafted a non-binding letter of intent that we would be the non-federal sponsor for the Word of 2024 project. And we issued that letter, and it's attached to your packages and posted online. That letter, the Army Corps will then use to go up to headquarters in Washington to seek the funding for the study under Word of 2024. And the Congress subcommittees recommended that they do $26 million in the budget this next year for Army Corps studies. So we're trying to go after or get some of that $26 million. Our study is estimated to be about 3 million. The letter has also been provided to Congressman Sam Ricardo's office. And I had a meeting with his staff yesterday to go over the letter, the request. We also received a letter from Supervisor Miller concerning the Burnham Strip proposed parking area. He's received a lot of community comments about the parking area. And he asked us to make sure that we coordinate with Granada Community Services District and the Mid-Coast Community Council on both as we move forward. I responded and let his chief of staff know that we have been working with both the MCC and the GCSD, and that the Harbor District actually provided an in-person brief to the MCC last month, or prior, not last month, but 2 months ago. And they appreciated that response. I then, same related topic, I attended the Mid-Coast Community Council meeting because of their agenda item 5A was a listening session on parking in El Granada Highway 1 corridor and Surfers Beach area. While it wasn't specifically referencing the Harbor District parking project, the main subject of that agenda item from the public was the Harbor District's parking project. It was interesting to learn that there's a lot of false information or incorrect information out there that people are mentioned that they thought our parking area was going to be built for revenue generating only, so paid parking. This board has not discussed or indicated it would be paid parking. The proposed new parking area would be to support a new hotel by the district. The district is not building any new hotel right now or have any plans to. That we would allow recreational vehicles, semi-trucks and other large vehicles to park in the proposed parking area. We've actually discussed about limiting the parking lot to exclude the large recreational vehicles, semi-trucks and large vehicles to protect the view corridor. And then we originally purchased the land with the purpose of building a parking lot, and that the district was being nefarious with hiding that intent. And that's not true either. We didn't purchase the land for the parking lot. Those two parcels on Burnham Strip were part of a larger property purchase on the west side of Highway 1, as we know, above the launch ramp. And those two pieces of property came along with that purchase. So it was interesting. Following that, I received Greg Dominguez, a member of the public, issued several questions, or Diego, sorry, issued a letter to the MCC asking them to consider several points in the letter that they will be drafting next month to all involved parties. I took the opportunity to respond to all those questions that Greg put in that questions and forwarded to the MCC, and also responded to him with those questions and copied the co-site buzz so we can get the correct information about our parking project out to the public. And it was very well received from several people. Next month, I'll be bringing a proposal to the board concerning EV charging stations. We were approached by a national company to install EV charging stations at Pillar Point Harbor, and they would pay for the rental spaces, and the spaces would be open to anybody to charge EVs. So it'll be open EV charging. And I'll be bringing that to the board next month. I will also be bringing an agreement with Surfline, put a camera up on our new restroom at Surfing Beach, a Caltrans proposal to support us on the Burnham Strip parking area. The Burnham Strip, our recommendation for the design and engineering team for the Burnham Strip parking area, bringing both the Arune Foundation and the Cabrillo Educational Foundation activity permits and waivers to the board next month. Updating the district the board on our nonprofit where it sits. And then a new topic that we're looking at through the entertainment or activity committee for the Halloween timeframe is an additional event called Trunk or Treat. So those are the what we're planning on bringing back to the board next month. Beyond that, that is my report.
On that EV proposal, it'd be nice to see what they think, how often EVs are used, and then compare that. I know we've started looking at our current EV spots that we have, and it just seems like the 3 spots that we have are vastly underutilized. And if somebody wants to bring something in, I'd like to see how their opinion of the use of EV compares with what we've got. We've had that EV in place for a while.
One over by Surface Beach.
Yeah.
That is well used. Yes. It's a national company, and one of the great things about it, and we'll go into detail next week, is that Pillar Point Harbor will be entered into every electric navigation system. For every car to be able to know that you can charge your car at Pillar Point and then bring those people to the harbor, which would be great. So that'll be next month.
And then you've got captive participants in the harbor for 3 or 4 or 5 hours.
The liaison meeting for Oyster Point is on September 18th.
Just a little point, a little bit more detail on this general investigation feasibility study. Typically those studies, the Corps, they're $3 million total for the study portion only.
Right.
There'll be 3 years. They're trying to limit it so you don't have 15-year studies anymore, but they try to limit it to 3 years, with the reports being kind of less than 15. So the first year typical funding for the initial appraisal, all the coordination with the harbor, is about $300,000. We worked with Sam LaCarter's office, I believe, to request that funding. The other portion is in my searches through federal funding and the current administration and trying to feel where this current administration is heading. They did put some money in there for studies, but the president's ideas are very supportive of small harbors and ports and navigation and dredging and commercial. And so I think we may, maybe maximize that knowledge and pursue funding from the federal government to do more things maybe in the harbor. I don't know. It seems like
We fit that.
we do fit that. So,
Yeah, and our Word project will also address safety
Sure.
navigation for the channel entrance.
So, it's not,
We're playing that.
it's, there could be some opportunities for us to think about as we go during the next 3 years at least, that there is some focus for the administration on harbors and ports. So,
Sounds like that could be related to PIDP, Port Infrastructure Development Plan,
most certainly.
as well as WRDA.
And all the PIPD grant applications got rejected. And we're waiting for the new rules.
The others.
We'll probably hear more about that we have the CMANC meeting, California Marine Affairs Navigation meeting here at the harbor. It's going to be at the harbor. Well, I'm sure they'll talk a lot more about California's ports and harbors and, the federal involvement in all that. So that's in September.
What's that?
CMANC.
Yes. I'll be heading to DC
Before the big.
no, after that. That'll be on the board next month.
Things are going quite well, both harbors, a little bit of a slower time right now, so staff are using this opportunity to do a lot of maintenance work. Dock board replacement, electrical pedestal, repairs and replacements as well, both at Oyster Point and Pillar Point. We'll go into the project, we've got projects going on, obviously, in both facilities. Well, we do
closed
have
session, or I'm sorry.
consultants here,
Consent
line
agenda.
items on the
Don't say
agenda.
anything that has a
Some
hot
be
point needs to be
redundant,
brought
talk
back.
around the project. Got nothing to ask further, but
That's it?
Yep.
Wow, that was quick. Thank you. Okay, moving right along to administer, get this language right. Sorry. The activity report for administration and most importantly, finance, the best for last.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Just a couple of things to highlight. We finalized the ability to offer our employees a Roth IRA option for our 457 contributions. We're planning on rolling that out during our October open enrollment process. We're already getting ready for our next fiscal audit. I can't believe a whole year has gone by. It seems like we just finished our last one.
It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes. Working, right now, I'm reviewing a draft of a RFP that's going to go out for IT services. Again, time keeps flying by. It's been 5 years since we went out for RFP. And so we'll get that out in the next couple of weeks. Lastly, on the activity report, there was a statement that we were looking into participating with the BioWatch program, and that after further talks, it was determined that that was not a good fit for the district.
Thank you. Moving right along to consent agenda. I am concerned about some of the items on the consent agenda because on my phone, I haven't been able to call up the link. And so for the one F5 on no pets in the workplace, I wanted to see the policy. It didn't show up.
And 6.
And 6, the travel and reimbursement policy also did not show up.
And so I was really looking at that because when I've been traveling. And so that's the only, I didn't bring my laptop, this phone acts, it's like a tablet. And I was able to pull up the other attachments for the discussion items, but not on consent, and it could be my phone. But anyway, it's hard to approve a policy when you can't see it.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. That was what I was going to do. Great minds.
Thank you.
So we will be hearing consent items, bills and claims, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and 4 monthly capital project update. We will postpone 5 and 6 until the next month, which is August.
I'll
So-
make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 4.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstention, nays, motion carries. Consent items 1 through 4 are approved. Moving on to discussion. This is the exciting part. Surfers Beach Pilot Restoration Project Construction Update.
as everybody's aware, we discussed a little bit earlier, the Surfers Beach project, has not actually begun. We've not issued all notice to proceed. We have, issued, the ability for the contractor to start staging some supplies and equipment. We have, Brad Dammits, our design engineering consultant, coastal engineering consultant, here to give us a real thorough update on the progress and our look forward. Brad?
Morning, commissioners. Let me just get my screen sharing going here. Okay. Yeah, so we came last month to you with our update presentation and said we've got lots of good stuff coming ahead and some equipment being mobilized. And I think since then, as I heard from the commissioners, there's been some activity at the harbor that people can visibly see. And we've done a bunch of outreach as well to try and get the word out. So as part of our kind of monthly update thing, what I'd like to do is just kind of take you through the plans for the upcoming weeks, let you know what's occurred over the past few weeks, and then get into the discussion and questions after that. So with that, uh, just to point out here real quickly, the three major areas of activity in the harbor and outside the harbor that are associated with the project. Starting with the left of the screen, we've got the eelgrass mitigation area over in the western portion of the harbor, the West Basin. The dredging areas are in the East Basin in front of the boat launch ramps and along the East Breakwater. And then finally, there's a Surfers Beach placement area where the sand for the beach placement will be pumped over and placed on Surfers Beach. So, real quickly, a couple photos that illustrate the reasons why the district is pursuing this project. The obvious one is erosion at Surfers Beach, uh, extreme erosion levels at Surfers Beach threatening Highway 1. Obviously, super important, most important to the harbor district is the shoaling, the sedimentation inside the harbor, which is causing issues with navigation, boat launching, that kind of thing. So the project will address those two issues. What the actual nuts and bolts of the project are to remove about 75,000 cubic yards of clean sand from the East Basin and pump that over to Surfers Beach. As part of the process, the district's required to mitigate for the eelgrass that would be damaged by the dredging inside the harbor, and that turns out to be a pretty large project in its own. That involves pumping about 18,000 cubic yards from off of the boat launch ramp of sediment over to the basin of the harbor by the West Breakwater and building a platform, kind of building up the seafloor to a level that is conducive to the growth of eelgrass, and then planting the eelgrass that's salvaged from those dredging areas into that. So that's another big activity that you'll see. Important to point out, this is a pilot project. As everybody's well aware, it's been a challenge to get permitting agency approval because it's part of the National Marine Sanctuary. A project like this has never been done in the National Marine Sanctuary. So they're allowing the project to occur along with a lot of monitoring to study and to show that there's no significant impacts from the placement of sand from a harbor onto a beach outside of the harbor. And again, it requires extensive physical and ecological monitoring just because of the level of permits and the fact that it's a pilot project. And some of that monitoring has already occurred and underway. So as far as the general timeline for Surfers Beach construction, there's a couple different phases. Right now, we're in the contractor mobilization phase. And what we're doing right now is working with the contractor to review their plans, their submittals, where they want to place their equipment, how they want to do the dredging. There's a whole lot of details that go into a big project like this. So we've got a team of engineers, construction managers, district staff, and myself kind of scrutinizing all of that and doing back and forth with the contractor to make sure everything is done appropriately and within the kind of parameters of the permit conditions. That process is going to next lead to the actual construction where they start dredging and pumping sand. And the first area that they'll do that is, and I'll give you diagrams and more stuff coming up, but this is just kind of the basic description. Off of the boat launch ramp, there's a couple different dredging areas, and the ones further offshore, you're going to pump that 18,000 yards over to the west basin of the harbor to build that eelgrass mitigation area. That's the first thing that's going to occur once everything is set up and ready. After they do that, they have to allow a little bit of time for that sediment to settle down, and then they're going to salvage the eelgrass from the dredging areas, bring it over there, bundle it up, and transplant it into this newly constructed eelgrass mitigation area. Once that's completed, they're going to reconfigure the dredging pipelines so that they can pump the sand out to Surfers Beach rather than the western portion of the harbor. And then they're going to start dredging off of the boat launch ramp close to shore and pumping that over to Surfers Beach. Once that sand is cleared out at the launch ramp, they're going to move the operations over to the East Breakwater dredging areas and then pump that sand to Surfers Beach. Finally, after all the sand at Surfers Beach has been placed and graded to its final, contours, then there's going to be probably a week or two of demobilization. So that's the opposite of what's happening now, getting all that pipe and all the equipment off of the construction sites once everything's been signed off and done. So kind of some key dates on that, starting with things that have already happened. As you recall, early May was when the bids were opened. The district awarded the contract with Vortex Marine Construction at the end of May. Gave a limited notice to proceed, and the contractor mobilization shortly after that. The proposed construction start date, which everything seems to be going according to plan, is July 28th, about 2 weeks from today. And as I mentioned before that, you're going to see a lot of movement of pipes, and we'll get into those details in a bit. But the actual dredging and pumping of sand will begin on the 28th of July. That'll start with these areas 1B and 1C that I mentioned before. That'll go to the eelgrass mitigation, and then they'll do the other areas that I had described that get pumped over to Surfers Beach. The beginning of the eelgrass transplant after that mitigation area has settled would be around August 23rd, and that's the time where they will, salvage, bundle up all that eelgrass and transplant it into the area. And we've got a construction completion date of October 15th. So all equipment and demobilization completed by October 30th. So as a general timeline, what has occurred already? Let's start with the monitoring. Lots of monitoring requirements for this project, and as part of that, you need to get a baseline pre-construction condition of what the conditions look like biologically, physically, prior to the movement of sand. We have all of the eelgrass surveys completed. MTS, the company that is doing all the eelgrass biological work, has been busy at the site. About 2 weeks, full weeks of work during low tide periods have been completed so far. The eelgrass survey was completed. There's still quite a bit of eelgrass out there. I guess the trends have continued. We were wondering whether or not it has been decreasing or not. Since the initial eelgrass survey, it seems like some of the eelgrass volumes went down a bit, but then stabilized. So we still have plenty of eelgrass for transplanting into the mitigation area. A black abalone survey was completed. That was one of the big special status animals that's present in the site that we were required to mitigate and monitor for. And no black abalone were surveyed, so that's a good thing. And then some of the other stuff, special status plants during like the pipeline alignment areas on the land and stuff, those have been occurring during the bloom seasons. We had bathymetry and beach surveys done. The surfing conditions monitoring, Bob Battaglia was leading that process, and that's been ongoing, working with also some members of Surfrider Foundation and the surf schools at Half Moon Bay to assist with that. Sandy beach monitoring, looking at some of the invertebrates inside the sand and looking at those over time after we place the sand. The pre-construction surveying has been done, and then the nesting birds. The one thing that needs to happen is the snowy plover surveys. That has to happen closer to the work where the pipeline is going to be placed on land. So that'll be in the next few weeks. So what's occurred already? I heard some talk about the mobilization of the pipeline. So the contractor had brought in a bunch of 16-inch pipeline that they're assembling up above on the bluff and the new parcels that the Harbor District recently bought in between parking lot C3 and Sam's Chowder House. And what they're planning on doing in the coming days, and we'll talk about this too because it has some implications on public use, but they're going to be fusing these pipelines together and then transporting them down into the water from up there. And during that time, there's going to be some limited closures of the recreational trail. Those have been noticed, publicly noticed, and we've been working with the contractor and they're going to do the best to kind of minimize those as much as possible and work with the public to make things smooth. But it is something that's going to happen in the beginning of the project. And then again, briefly at the end of the project where they demobilize all the pipeline. Here's kind of a few pictures of what that operation looks like up on the hill with these fancy machines that kind of fuse together with the pipes. That piece of equipment in the back is called a telehandler, and that's just what they use to kind of move the pipe around, and they'll get it down the hill, push it into the harbor, and this will all make sense in a second. But the second thing that occurred recently as well, in addition to all the surveys I mentioned, is that in that mitigation area that's going to be constructed, there's already a little bit of eelgrass in there. So what the agencies required us to do was remove that, transplant it somewhere else where there's already, appropriate depth of water and stuff nearby. So to get it out of that mitigation area so that it can be filled in and then replanted. So that's something that occurred about 2 weeks ago. And you can see what they're doing here is, so divers went down, salvaged the eelgrass, then they get these strands called turions with the little, so eelgrass is a plant, it has roots, it needs to reach up to the sun. What they do is they bundle a few of those together, tie them on basically like a popsicle stick, biodegradable kind of anchor, and then they put those units in, space them out according to the plan, into the seafloor. So that's what you're seeing there. They're processing those units on the dock. They have to have and the Harbor Patrol was very helpful in coordinating, setting up some parking spots for them so they could pump the water up into the system and be able to discharge the water down there. So that all occurred a few weeks ago. A couple more pictures you can see kind of, they've got the buoys out to delineate where they're going to be transplanting the eelgrass. And that person down on the dock is kind of handling the transplant units. Okay, so here's a screenshot from the final plans, just showing, again, those areas that I mentioned before, and you can see where the eelgrass is now under that, and these green areas. Note that that's not all eelgrass. The dark green areas are where the actual eelgrass is, but the way that the eelgrass mitigation policy works is you have to show that buffer around the eelgrass itself, because that's considered growing habitat, and that's where the light green is. Over here in the West Basin, you can see where the existing eelgrass is and where they're going to be building the eelgrass mitigation platform. So what they're going to need to do is pump from this side of the harbor over to the west side of the harbor. And the way they do that, this is process is suction dredging, hydraulic dredging. So what they do is kind of suck up the sediment, mix it with water, and then pump it in a slurry, hydraulically pump it over to the other side of the harbor and to the Surfers Beach area. Again, here are the main areas where we'll be seeing work in the coming weeks after July, in the first few weeks after July 28th. This is out here, dredge area 1C, 1B. Those are the ones where the sediment's going to get pumped over for the eelgrass mitigation. And then this large area here in the front is 1A, and that's where they're going to pump over to Surfers Beach after the eelgrass mitigation is completed. What you see here, again, is a close-up of that eelgrass area in the West Basin. This little shape right here is the mitigation platform that's going to be constructed with sediment. You can see these green dots inside it. Those were the ones that were transplanted out of there before a couple of weeks ago. And this is interesting. This barge over here is a purpose-built barge, which is pretty innovative that they're going to be using. So what they'll do is they'll pump that slurry through a 16-inch pipeline onto the back end of that barge, and then it kind of gets diffused, gets pushed out over, I think it's an 18-foot kind of fan. So it slows down all that sediment, and they're able to kind of control the flow off the end of the barge. As they move it along an anchor system, they kind of moves it along in a regular pattern, so that they can control the amount of sediment that's going down. And of course, they'll be surveying as they're doing it to make sure that they've got all their, they're meeting the plans and everything. And you'll see that out there sometime after the 28th. They actually brought that barge last week or beginning of this week. I think it was Monday. So that's on site now. Here is the pipeline alignment. And so I mentioned, there's two areas where dredged material is going to be pumped. One of them is Surfers Beach. The other one is eelgrass mitigation area. That's going to require two different pipeline alignments. This one on the left that you see coming from the boat launch ramp, this is going to be the pipeline. It's going to get floated along here with plenty of signage and, warning buoys. It's going to go get anchored along the east breakwater. Here's the mouth of the harbor. The big question probably is, what are you going to do there? They're going to sink it. They're going to fill the pipeline with water, sink it to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, and then bring it up again to the surface over by the eelgrass mitigation area. Because obviously, the boats need to get in and out of there. There's going to be a slight closure at the mouth of the harbor when that occurs. It's going to be no more than 4 hours. So we'll talk about that coming up. But, that's going to be where that area is. Once that process is done with the eelgrass mitigation, they're going to disassemble this pipeline, assemble the one that goes to the Surfers Beach. You can see this alignment right here. And then start pumping over to the Surfers Beach. One of the other things that they're going to need to do once they start dredging in this area is this entrance over here. I guess that we'll just call it the south entrance to the inner harbor is going to get closed off just to keep the boat traffic away out of the dredging area while the dredging is occurring. So we're not anticipating any major inconveniences from that, but it's definitely something that the public has been made aware of, and it's something that, to look out for if anybody has any questions. That's the rationale. The second big component of the Surfers Beach project, and we'll get into more detail on how this is going to happen in a future meeting, but that's the placement of the sand on the beach. And I think we just kind of, unless there's questions about this that I can answer after, focus this presentation on the initial phase, which is inside the harbor work and the eelgrass mitigation. So, key public notification dates, as I've mentioned, and these have already been, the public has been notified through signage and other means. The pipeline launch, that's already underway, but the contractor is estimating up to 2.5 hours to move these large segments from up in the hill, slide them down into the water and start assembling them. And there's 9 of those. So they've been well briefed on this, and they're aware of the situation inside the harbor and the busyness of all the activity on the recreational trail and the need to keep it open as much as possible, except for these short closures that are required for construction. So that's the pipeline launch. That'll be completed by the 18th. So we're kind of right in the middle of that right now. The next one, which I mentioned, was the closure of the east inner harbor entrance. And that'll be July 28th once construction begins. Yes.
I had you muted. Go ahead.
Am I muted? Am I good?
Brad, I was just gonna add, make clear to everybody who's listening, we've had multiple questions about, work on the weekends.
Yeah.
There'll be no interruptions to the trail on the weekend.
Thank you.
That's right. Yep. Sorry. Okay. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. And then the other big one, which I mentioned, is the closure of that main harbor entrance temporarily when they're filling that pipeline with water, to allow it to get down to the bottom so that the large boats can safely get in and out of there. And that'll definitely be carefully noticed through, Coast Guard, notice to mariners, Harbor Patrol. They're aware of the large boats that need to get in and out of there, particularly this time of year. It looks like, squid boats would be the ones. So slight closure and inconvenience, but with a lot of notification and working with the boaters and the fishers and stuff, don't foresee it as being a big issue at this point. Okay. And then, yeah, with that, other things that have been going on, you'll see some signage, some large 4-foot by 8-foot signage that's being printed now. It's at the print shop. That should be going out soon. The contractor is bringing in an office, whatever, portable kind of RV office style thing and a storage unit that'll be placed behind the boat launch ramp restrooms. There will be a portion of time where that was the easternmost, the far ramp is going to be closed off for staging of equipment and stuff. That would not be an issue with the salmon opener in, was it August or September? Anything where they're required boater access, the contractor will work with the harbor district to restore access to that boat launch ramp. But for portions of the project, large portions, one of the ramps will be closed off for their use. And then there will be, and we're still working with the county on the final agreements for this, but a staging area adjacent to the coastal trail above the bluff, above Surfers Beach, just past where the project is, between Highway 1 and the coastal trail, where there will be heavy equipment staging, a couple, up to 2 bulldozers and a long reach excavator up there. We've got that signage, the big signage going up so people understand what it's about. There's contact information for both the contractor and the harbor district. There's a QR code for, that'll bring people directly to the district Surfers Beach website with all the updates. So, we're doing the best we can to get the word out. And I think kind of up until now, everything's been low profile, but now that things are actually happening, there's going to be a lot of questions coming in and stuff. And I would recommend the website is being updated right now. I think if not already, by end of this week for sure, as early as end of today, we'll have new material up there, including that sign, informational sign, so people can be sent to the website for more information. Everything, virtually everything from the plans, permits, CEQA documents, bid documents, all that stuff is readily available up on the website. And yeah, with that, I will open it up to questions. Sure, there's a bunch.
You have a copy of the signage, the informational signage that we are putting together right now?
Yeah, would you like me to share my screen? I could pull that up.
We're purchasing 4 of these 4x8 huge signs that we put together, our team has put together with pictures and all information about the project, which we're going to be putting at multiple sites along the project area. And then also some smaller ones that'll go in front of the harbor.
Harbor master's office?
Yeah. This is the final result here of the informational signage, but it also has a barcode, the scan code there, which does defer everyone that does scan it, that has the capability to go right to our website with all the other information as well. Plus our website is on there as well.
We've got the
Yes.
commitment listed
The
on the
The
top.
project website or, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's
project.
one and the same, but that would go
It's the
directly
district
to its
website,
link.
but the project
Yeah.
page.
Yeah,
And Melanie's done an excellent job with getting out all the information of potential closures.
Oh,
We
great.
are working closely with the contractor to make sure that as things develop, there's often changes in projected
Yeah.
closures, et cetera. So we're going to be updating those constantly in real time.
that's
So
great.
where are you going to be putting these signs?
Well, one of the big 4x8 signs can go in the this area where we're staging equipment.
Good.
Right at the site up on the bluff, and then another is planned to be on the project trailer, which is right near the launch. So
Okay,
everybody
and are you
goes
gonna
to
have one by the
the
Surfers
launch.
Beach bathroom?
We've got smaller ones.
Okay,
There.
good.
Yeah.
I think the
We
more.
got half size, so 2x4s and then 4x8s. The smaller
Fabulous.
ones, we'll try and get one at the restroom and harbor master's office. Chris Tibby has a spot for it.
Fabulous.
Yeah, the railing there right by the front of the harbor office.
Good. Are we taking, is this a good time for questions or is this a question on the side?
It's a clarification.
Okay,
On slide, this is really for, I think, just the board. On slide number 7, I believe, on the timeline, Brad showed correctly that beginning dredging 1B and 1C place the sand at the mitigation area, whereas our slides say something different. Ours
Thanks.
says place the sand at Surfers Beach. And that's not correct. That first sand will go to the mitigation area. Brad's slides were correct that you saw up there. The one that we had attached to our materials is not correct.
Thank you, George. I should have known you would have caught that. I was going through it this
7.
morning before the meeting and I saw that and I updated it on my slide. I meant to have mentioned that, but I didn't. Sorry.
Yeah,
Just, if you're reading that, just know that that's not what.
I was looking for
Okay,
the actual picture. Is it on the?
it's on the
picture?
timeline.
Yeah, no,
on
I see
the
that.
key dates, it says,
Yeah, I see that.
and it's about in the middle.
Yeah.
I'll send Melanie the updated file and ask her to post that one instead.
Thank you.
Good, let's keep going. Is this the end of it?
Yeah, any questions?
The end of the presentation, but
We have public comment from anywhere? And Rochelle, do you have anything? Okay, moving right along then, to questions from the board.
Have all the recreational
one
and
public
commercials
comment.
been contacted about July 28th and 29th?
Just popped up.
I know we posting on Coast Side and our website and everything else.
I believe that Chris Tibby is working on it. I think he has done the notice to mariners. We're waiting to get a more refined timeline on which day and what time of day before giving them a large window and saying, here's this 2-day window. But I believe that they have been contacted already. Chris is aware of who owns the big boats, and I think he's talked with them. If not, it's going to happen within the next couple of days.
It should happen repeatedly.
We've got a couple of
Yeah.
the bulletin boards on Johnson Pier. We should probably post something on there as well.
Okay. Make a note of that.
We've made very clear, contractor, that we need to know in advance as much as possible whenever there's gonna be a closure for the outer harbor. And we expressed the concerns that, we could have travel fishing vessels, commercial fishing vessels that may have, sensitive, time sensitive squid, et cetera, in the vessel hold, live, catch that can't wait, that they need to know and give the time their arrivals and departures, not only based on, our construction, but also with that pipe limiting the draft by 18 inches. We've asked that they, once they lay the pipe, that they lead line and they ensure that in fact, they know exactly what the draft is going to be reduced by. And
Yeah. And they also have a licensed surveyor, so they're going to get the exact depth of where this
And
is.
we have
One public comment.
Okay, let's call the public comment.
Diddy, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Harbor Commissioners. My question is around, around the closure of the harbor entrance here. I personally have not received any information about it here. I did hear, I believe it was, one person addressed that the 28th and the 29th, I believe that's a Monday and Tuesday. I can't emphasize enough the amount of time and notice that we're going to need for these closures. I operate at all hours of the day here. for my business, and that's going to be a big constraint. So I would appreciate that that we're made aware. I know you said it's on the website, but a lot of us don't actually go to the website and look at that. If there could be some kind of an email sent out on that to inform us here, because I know I'm not the only one who's concerned about the closures there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will definitely send out an email blast about this. You will definitely certainly be hearing about it. And to be clear, just in case there's any misunderstandings, it's not the full days of closure. It's up to a 4-hour period within that 2-day period. So we're just waiting on an update from the contractor about which day and the time for that. And we'll get
The
that.
meeting we had yesterday, the contractor hoped to be able to provide that information to us yesterday. But I understand from the harbor master that we have not yet received the most accurate information. So we obviously want to pass on accurate information. We anticipate getting that accurate information relatively quickly. And as soon as we do, we will be notifying everybody by all means possible to us. And like Tom said, we'll be putting it out on the bulletin boards on Johnson Pier. Melanie will be sent a distribution list, most of which, I think most of our manage at the harbor office.
Is it possible to put it on, because closing this harbor is such a big deal, put it on our phone message where it says, hello, if you need to talk to, please remember
Yeah,
the harbor will be closed.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that, but, and again, it won't be closed the whole time, it'll be closed periodically. Yeah.
Right, well,
And-
that's,
yeah.
that's,
And-
it's just a way of telling folks who call to say, oh, what's going on, that it's right there.
We'll be getting it out, getting the message out in all ways we can think of, including that.
Good, thank you.
We can discuss a little bit on how the project will impact the salmon opener in September.
We have already made clear to the contractor that no work will take place during that entire period. Chris actually suggested, the harbor master at Blue Point Harbor, suggested very limited work 2 days prior to the opener. So that's what we're going with, and 2 days afterward. So we're going to be doing very limited work during that entire salmon opener period, but no work at all during the salmon opener.
And the full capacity of the boat launch ramps will be opened up during that whole period.
Really, we want to try to, in fact, there was discussion of staging some equipment on the concrete, boat ramp access area. And we had to deny that. We were trying our very best to limit any limitations or closures of the launch ramp at all. Just that furthest west launch ramp will be closed from time to time as our contractor has to bring in the track lift equipment, etc. That'll be very minimal.
What's the response time in terms of the notice to mariners? When we get information to the Coast Guard, is that kind of instantaneous? Do they get messages out? I'm thinking of offshore vessels that may not be that familiar, but may need to come in, that they get notified.
The contractor is responsible for doing the notice to mariners.
Okay.
They've already done that process. I'm not certain on
Of how quickly that they would.
the, now. I believe it to be relatively.
I think so.
Where mariners within 24 hours or something. Notice,
Only 40 years ago, we used to tell them 2 weeks in advance, but yeah, no, I would think it would be, they could do that right away.
Is that inside the breakwater, or is that the beach outside the breakwater? Outside the breakwater. So on surface beach. Okay. There won't be any in the inside. That's gonna all be done by suction rig.
around the launch ramp. That's another benefit, obviously, of the project. Bridge area for anchored boats that utilize that area out by the launch ramp, in front of the launch ramp. But the launch ramp itself historically does show in every year or two. And this project will emphasize and prioritize sand being removed from the launch ramp area, which is going to really be beneficial and less closure. So, consultant Damitz has included in this permitting process our ability for another 5 years to be able to do the knockdowns. Should a few years from now, as sand regretfully may show up again for any subsequent dredge project like we're doing now occur, we'll be able to knock that sand down and push it away from the ramp without any significant permitting process. Is that correct, Brad?
That's correct. And they'll also allow every 5 years to renew that. So it's kind of in perpetuity. They'll also, as part of that, allow additional dredging and beach placement up to 75,000 cubic yards. The caveat is we still have to do all the surveys and all the, go through a lot of hoops, even though we don't have to get a separate permit. So it's much easier and more convenient. But there's still quite a bit of work involved with it.
Up moving Deer Creek.
I'm all for that, but I think that's a big conversation and a big project. That would certainly get rid of a lot of the sediment that gets deposited on the boat launch ramps and make the operations a lot easier.
Move forward with project we may end up being able to add in when we get and with it the moving of the Deer Creek. I've heard the general manager discussing that.
So if we were able to move Deer Creek, we'd be taking an expensive pollution depositing problem from inside the harbor to a sand increasing area, which is would be a benefit for Surfers Beach then.
Right, all that sand.
And it would help to protect the highway too.
All that sand that currently is deposited after heavy rains into our outer harbor and captured by our breakwater would then be positively beneficially used to Surfers Beach.
So we're
that's-
using a natural process
Exactly.
to
And
help preserve the Surfers Beach area.
exactly. And
Yeah.
the manager has made clear as well that there'd be a natural biofiltration that would occur
Using
because
plants.
of the design. So
Right,
the
using
water-
plants
The
and
water
stuff.
would actually be naturally filtered prior to being led toward the
It sounds like a positive kind of situation. Any more comments or questions? Seeing none, we can move on to the next item. Thank you very much, Brad. That was
Thank you,
very,
everybody.
Thanks, Brad.
That's Brad.
See you next month.
yeah. This is exciting stuff.
It is. Yep. Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, which is San Mateo Resource Conservation District, Pillar Point Harbor Water Quality Update and Proposal for Assistance for Board Consideration. John.
This is for the board to receive an update presentation and consider a proposal for a not to exceed amount of $130,000, $130,162 for a period of 2 years, fiscal years 25, 26, and 26, 27, to fund the San Mateo County
Conservation District for continued support and work associated with water quality projects, coordination with respect to MDL regulations, technical assistance, and identification of unknown sources of contaminants into Pillar Point Harbor. We've got Grace and her team from Resource Conservation District here to give us a update on all the work that they've been doing for the last couple of years and to explain their proposal for continued assistance.
Hi, thank you for having us. I'm Grace Allen. I'm a water quality technician at the RCD, and I'll pass it along to Jared to introduce himself.
Hey, everybody, nice to see you, and thanks for having us. I'm Jared Fisher, Director of Water Resource Programs at the RCD.
And I'm Clifton Herman. I'm the water quality specialist at the RCD, and just want to check that we're all coming through all right.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and start. We've got a couple different kind of sections of this presentation, but we've already done our introduction, so I can jump into a bit of the highlights of what we're going to talk about. So we'll give you a little bit of background on the RCD water quality program, some of the things that we work on, understanding water quality studies, pollution sources, that sort of thing, reducing and eliminating pollution sources, and then, the outreach piece, engaging the public and community science. And we'll also focus on the history of our partnership, talk a little bit about what we've done in the past. Oh,
Jared?
yeah.
You're muted.
You're displaying your speaker slides. Can you put it to full slide?
Yes, I think that's Grace who's presenting right now. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Grace.
What is it showing currently?
Showing
It's
speaker slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
full screen it.
Okay. Let's see. Did that fix it?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, great.
And you can advance to the next slide. I was talking about presenting a bit about the history of our partnership, the work that we've done with you all over several years, some of the upcoming tasks that are part of the budget for fiscal year 26-27. We'll break that down into some of the upcoming things we're working on with you, upcoming projects, first flush, some of the line scoping efforts that are underway, and some of the technical assistance that we provided and we'll continue to provide. And then we'll jump into a bit of the task detail and annual budget at the end. Before we jump into that, just real quick, a little bit about the RCD for those who aren't familiar. We are Resource Conservation District. We're a special district. There's a number of us, RCDs across California, and we serve as local hubs for conservation. Our goal is really to help people help the land and connect people with technical, financial, and educational assistance that they need to conserve and manage their natural resources. And we use a variety of different and diverse means to do that, to protect, conserve, and restore natural resources. So we kind of serve as the focal point for local conservation efforts. Most of folks here are probably aware of us and have worked with us in the past, but it's good to be here. We're non-regulatory. We work where we're invited. So we're really excited for the opportunity to present today and continue to work with you moving into the future. And with that, I'll pass it over to Clifton, who's going to jump into a bit about the program.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. So here we have sort of the three pillars of the RCD's water quality program. We seek to understand, reduce, and engage. So for understanding, we do a lot of water quality studies and source identification work. So we work all across the district to better understand how different types of pollution travel and where they might be coming from. Our focus can be public health, it can be ecological health, or it can be both. Oftentimes it is both. And that's what these water quality things can come down to. And sort of big picture, there does tend to be a lot of nuance with water quality data. And so this is a challenging pillar, the understanding water quality piece. On the reduce side of things, obviously we want to reduce pollution where we can. This slide says reducing and eliminating pollution. Eliminating is a strong word, but we always do what we can to reduce pollution. And I think this pillar leans very heavily on the other two. So the third is engage. So we do a lot of outreach and community science work. As we try to reduce sources of pollution, it requires a lot of creative problem solving and a deep understanding of the practices that are occurring at a given site. And so that engage piece, we work, everything we do is in partnership. So we work with farmers, equestrians, property owners, community groups, special districts, harbors. We really rely on these partnerships as we do this work because we're bringing water quality knowledge, but it would be impossible for us to know everything. And so the partnership piece is very important as we engage with people that we're working with. They know their site, they know their practices, and we can work with them to help identify solutions to reduce pollution. So understanding, reducing, and engaging, they all happen simultaneously, and they sort of form the core of what we do here at the RCD water quality team. And we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So we have a long history of partnership with the Harbor District. I kind of broke this down into three broad categories, but as you're all well aware, the harbor is at the end of the line for several large watersheds. And so everyone likes to point fingers and say, the harbor is the source of all these water quality issues. We, of course, know that's not true. The reality is that the harbor receives flows from over, I think it's like, let me check my notes. Yeah, 4,250 acres of land that are all flowing down into the harbor. And so the work that we do with Pillar Point Harbor helps contextualize that situation because we really do all play, everybody in our community plays a role in the water quality that we have, not just the folks at the end of the line. So the work that we've been doing with the harbor really helps contextualize that within the community as we seek to identify some of these sources of pollution. We also have done a lot of permit compliance work with the Harbor District. So some things do come down to the Harbor District's the Harbor's responsibility under state and local regulations. And so for those things, we provide technical assistance by coordinating regular sampling, developing regulatory reports, and communicating findings to ensure compliance. And we've been doing that for a long time. Other things that we've done, we have provided trainings for harbor staff on water quality sampling or considerations, things to look out for on site. We're in talks about maybe doing that again. And we make recommendations for best management practices to ensure water quality is protected. And of course, we adaptively support the needs that come up for the harbor. I like to think of it as we're sort of like, having a nerd in your back pocket. You can just, or a water nerd in your back pocket. You can just pull us out whenever you need a nerd to come figure out what might be going on. And then we do have a history of doing larger studies with the harbor as well. So as Jared mentioned, and Grace will be talking about in the following slides, we've recently done some line scoping work. And then, of course, the First Flush program has been running since 2020 in our region. So that's a large project. But we're going to talk about those later. And so I've been with the RCD for a little over a year now, but my understanding is that since at least 2007, probably earlier, we've done really comprehensive bacteria sampling work to try and trace sources of fecal indicator bacteria that are entering the harbor. This has involved a lot of sampling, both in the inner and outer harbor, as well as in the tributary creeks that are running in. We've done genetic testing of the creeks that are flowing into the harbor to look for, is this human? Is this horse? Is this dog? Is this seagull? Spoiler alert, all of the above. And we did a large circulation study. We have a picture here. It looks like there's some, bright colors in the harbor. This is a environmentally safe dye that was used to do a circulation study, large-scale study, to look at how pollutants move within the harbor. And ultimately, what these studies have demonstrated is that a lot of these water quality issues that are present in the harbor, they really can't possibly be originating just from the harbor's activities alone. So, you know, the work that we've done here over the years has really demonstrated that this is everybody's responsibility. And, you know, we continue to support the harbor in this. And honestly, it's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you, Clinton, for going on our describing our historical partnership. And now we're going to describe the tasks and upcoming projects for fiscal year 26 and 27. So on the left, you can see the annual task breakdown, and our tasks for these years are program administration, implementation projects and compliance, general technical assistance, and first flush. So task 1 and 3 don't have any specific projects associated with them. So we won't be describing them as much, but those breakdowns are on the left, and we'll be talking about those further in the coming slides. Yeah, so for task 2, the TMDL that was adopted in 2021 has the requirement to scope any sewer lines or stormwater lines. And so we have mapped out those sewer lines, and we have historically scoped some of them. If you can see on the right of the screen is manhole 7A, and we are going to be scoping that soon. And then we also have the next steps of conduct repairs to CB22 and CB23 outfall. That was previously scoped, and the results of that indicate that we need to repair those. And then also—
Can you hear me, Melanie?
Yeah.
Grace, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of feedback, and this is very important. You know, this work that you're doing with regard to, you know, inspecting and repairing the lines. And we just can't understand you very good.
Okay, cool. Let me see. I can go back to that slide to describe it. Is there still feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little bit better.
Okay, I can try speaking louder.
And it's like an echo.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
can hear the volume fine, but it sounds like you're in
Like
a
static.
repeating an echo chamber.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Yeah, this is just a very important aspect of what RCD's been doing for us with all the inspection of the sewer and storm drains, and then the ones that they have scoped and found were damaged. They've worked to get them repaired for us.
Grace, I'm gonna mute it on our end, and then you can try again and see if it helps us muting us. So go ahead in a sec.
Okay. Great. Is this clearer or? Okay. All right. So for task 2, I'll go back to the previous slide.
Grace, that didn't help, actually. I'm sorry.
Grace,
Okay.
I think you need a better microphone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm currently just using my laptop one, so I wouldn't be surprised. All right, let's
Bring
see.
our tech guy in, maybe he can touch your microphone.
Oh, I muted.
Closer to your microphone.
Or further away, maybe?
It may be further away. Would
Okay.
help.
Let's see. Is this
Very well.
alrighty? How's this?
That might be better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can roll with this, and then let me know if you're getting feedback. Cool.
Yeah, I would sit a little further away.
A little further. All right, let's see. All right, how's that?
That's better. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Sweet. Yeah, so for task 2, that's our implementation projects and compliance. So in February 2021, the Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach TMDL was adopted with the requirements that sewer and stormwater lines be inspected. So we have manhole 7A, which is in the top right corner, that we still need to inspect, and that's a force main. And that's currently being scheduled, and will likely be in early August. But we'll be coordinating with you on that. And then for our other next steps, we'll be doing repairs to the lines that are found to need it, based on the inspections. So that might include manhole 7A, but we're waiting on the results for that. And then CB22, CB23 outfall does need repairs. So that's the one circled on the right there. And then in addition, we'll be continuing our SAM permit compliance sampling, which is conducted at least quarterly. And then the results are sent to you all and then to SAM. And then for task 4, this is our first flush program. And so it can be thought of as both a concept and a program. So the concept of first flush is that it's the first big rain event of the wet season. So the contaminants that we're building up on land can be washed into the ocean, or you can think of it as flushing. And then for our program, this is the RCD coordinates the efforts in San Mateo County as part of the overall multi-county program managed by Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. And so this is a volunteer water quality monitoring event that occurs once annually, and it's usually the worst case scenario for water quality. So it gives us a good idea of what the worst case scenario is. And in this program, we test 16 sites on the right here for fecal indicator bacteria. So that's E. coli and Enterococcus. Nutrients, so nitrates and orthophosphates. Metals, including copper, zinc, and lead, and total suspended solids. And we test all the way from Pacifica down to Half Moon Bay. But that zoomed in portion is Pillar Point Harbor. And there are 6 sites within Pillar Point Harbor. So a lot of data goes into this for Pillar Point Harbor. And we'll be starting our outreach for this shortly. So our training registration is on the right, that QR code. And it typically occurs September to November, the start of the wet season. And no experience is needed, and it's open to all. And we're really trying to reach more people with our outreach this year. So you'll be hearing from us for sure. And then, yeah, so circling back to the task and annual budget for fiscal year 26 and 27. For the program administration, that's going to be $3,000 annually, and that includes invoicing and general program management. For task 2, that's the implementation projects and compliance, and that's going to be $34,000 annually, but that includes the line scoping, the repairs, and the SAM quarterly compliance sampling. And then for task 3, that's the general technical assistance. So that's just being on call as the nerd in your pocket, as Clifton said. And then for task 4, that's our first flush program. And so the annual task breakdown is below, and that's going to be $65,081 annually, and then $13,162 for the 2 years. Yeah, and so that's our proposal. So yeah, please let us know if you have any questions, and thank you for letting us.
Can you hold on a minute?
Yeah, totally.
Grace, I just wanted to make clear to the board and the public that this, like task 2, for instance, the $34,000 per year, over the 2-year period would be $68,000, which is roughly half of the amount that the Resource Conservation District is asking for board to approve, is to carry out line scoping and repairs that may or may not be necessary next year. So this is a not to exceed amount. Go ahead, Grace.
Cool, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, any further comments or questions?
I have a question. will you be able to, with this project, help support, analyze and hopefully support moving Deer Creek to where the sand can be deposited to help preserve Surfers Beach? Does that make sense?
I would have to learn more. Oh, go ahead, Clifton.
It's our intent, President Slater Carter, that the RCD will be involved because of the water quality issue that we're trying to address through the TMDL.
Good.
And we do work with and use the RCD to assist us in responding to the TMDL requirements that we're trying to meet.
Thank you.
So yes, they'll be involved with that.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think, part of the general technical assistance is that category is for things like that that come up that we can help you identify and hopefully answer some questions, get background information to make educated decisions on whether or not that's, feasible.
I think if we're going to be moving it, you're going to be interested anyway. So it's better to get you in on the study side so we can do the right design work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth noting that we are, like I mentioned earlier, I've been with the RCD for about a year. We have a lot of data from all of the past projects that we've done. And we have slated for this year sort of as a separate project outside of our work with the harbor, but we will be compiling all of the data that we have and really trying to pull everything together to help tell a story on the coast here. And so I think that process will really help our team better understand the bigger picture of what's going on regionally with water quality. And, I think that will help inform any work that we do with the harbor as well. But yeah, we provide any support that is needed on any sort of regulatory issues related to water quality, and there will absolutely be some overlap if that project is pursued.
Thank you. George?
So in your determination of, or in your reducing and or eliminating pollution sources, do you do testing up in the watersheds at all?
Yes. Yeah, that was part, I think there was a study that was from 2007 to I believe 2013, where a large number of samples were collected on Deer Creek, Denniston, and all of the other tributaries that flow into the harbor. That included genetic testing as well. I'm not super familiar with all of the results. I kind of quickly read through the report, but there's a lot to learn. So yeah, I'm definitely still familiarizing with all of the past work, but yes, we have.
Okay, so further testing in FY 26 or 27 in terms of this proposal does not include anything that's up in the watersheds. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is the county responsible to do that? Does the county do that and feed you the data?
So the county has their own separate beach water quality testing program that is primarily focused on public health reporting. So all the signage and things like that. We have worked with the harbor on developing signs, and I think we still need to get them up, but we've been working with Chris to develop the signs and sort of improve that reporting system. But that is done by the county, and it's sort of a little bit separate from the work that that we're doing for the regulatory permits at the harbor.
I get that, and the footprint of the data points that you show is specific to the harbor, and that's appropriate to determine what's happening in the harbor. But when we start saying that, the harbor is kind of the reservoir for everything coming out of the watershed, there's other levels of responsibility other than the harbor that the harbor should not have to pay for, that would then feed data that shows where some of these point or non-point source pollution sources are from. So that is not included in this proposal. So I guess we'll have to talk with the county and see what what they're gonna be providing.
Yeah, that coordination
Is that-
is through the TMDL.
Okay,
So we work with the county, we have to do annual report to the county.
right, okay.
Throughout the TMDL.
Okay.
So yeah, we've.
And we
working
have
on
been
those
through our tech. oh,
Up
sorry.
creek sources.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be clear, some of that information is captured, because all of the water, going to the outfalls, and that's where the water is collected, or where the samples are collected during the first flush, is at the outfalls, which is indicative of all the contaminants that are coming into the harbor from upstream.
I understand that part. My point is that it is coming from upstream and somebody upstream ought to be taking care of it. Versus it coming into the harbor and then the harbor has to take care of it.
Yeah, and something that Jared said earlier that we really take to heart is that, we work where we're invited, and we do work with other folks in some of these watersheds on some of their projects and tracking some of their issues. We have a complex regulatory framework, especially when it comes to water quality, and especially, industrial dischargers or anything like that, stormwater permits, things like that. So there's a lot of other things in place that are keeping others in check, but at the same time, the non-point stuff is really challenging. And that's, what our big study did find is that there was really no single smoking gun for bacteria entering the harbor. It's really kind of coming from everywhere.
Great. Thank you.
We have made a concerted effort on our side though around first flush to make the data set available as quickly as possible. We've had a lot of changes within our program over the last year and a half. And so we are working on a lot of levels with most of the folks that we're doing water quality testing for to produce the results of these sampling events within a few weeks. So if there is something that seems interesting that we want to maybe put some more effort towards, we can work with you to identify that when the data is still valuable. So we will be doing that with first flush. We're going to be putting out kind of a couple page snapshot of the data we've collected, and then the larger report on the findings will follow. So that's something that we are going to be producing this year. In addition, as I think most folks are aware of, there's a lot of funding coming down the pipeline through the state through Proposition 4. We're actively going to be pursuing some of that funding for water quality testing. So we'll see if we can access any of that to help answer some of these questions that are coming up.
Thank you.
Following on Commissioner Domerat's statements, it would seem to me, since the streams are flowing into the harbor, the county should be covering you for more than that. I assure you, we like spending our own money as much as you like receiving it. And if there's any way that you could lighten the burden in coming years, the Harbor District would appreciate it.
Yeah, and we do have funding coming in from the county for other efforts, but the first flush piece in particular, there are other entities that are helping to fund that, SAM and the city of Pacifica as well. And we are actively in conversations with the county. We're actually meeting with them next week. So it's something that we're happy to discuss.
The other thing is, since we've had a little trouble with the audio, you folks aren't that far away. In the past, we've always had presentations right here at our meeting.
Absolutely. Next time. I think we thought that we were supposed to do it over Zoom. We were prepared to come in person. So definitely noted, next time we will show up and be there in the room.
Harbor District over the years has significantly reduced the funding for RCD coming from Harbor District funds. So we're down to 120 a year now, 130 a year, every other year. So it used to be significantly more. But as we've been addressing our water quality issues and eliminating alleged sources, such as our boats, we haven't had the need or requirement for their services as much as in the past. Our big runs right now is water quality for the TMDL, and they're our experts in that. And then the sewage system and scoping which is also related to the TMDL, making sure all our sewer lines are in proper condition and not leaking is a requirement. So we need them to be able to coordinate that for us. They have the expertise. And the good news is our wet well in the last couple months has been coming up within limits. So that hasn't happened in a very long time. So what we're doing is working.
Congratulations. Thank you, staff.
Yeah, well, Sam's been on us.
Thank you, Keishan.
It's a great benefit to the Harbor District for us to have RCD, and as he says, have a nerd in our pocket, and we are reducing the cost over the years.
I hear George wants to make a note.
Well, is there a motion for this one?
Yeah,
Do we
and
need a
I'll
motion?
make a motion to approve the proposal not to exceed, for a not to exceed amount of $130,162 for a period of 2 years, fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27, to fund the San Mateo Resource Conservation District for continued support and work associated with water quality projects, coordination with respect to TMDL regulations, education and outreach, technical assistance, and identification of unknown sources of the contaminants in the Pillow Point Harbor.
You gonna second?
Thank you. I mean, I just want to say the RCD has actually done some really great work, and I'm glad that we've been working with them in partnership with just actually dispelling a lot of the wrong information that the harbor's causing the water quality to be bad.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second and a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstention? Nay, hearing none, it
Thank
passes.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Moving
you
on,
so
moving on to item
thank you.
G3, it should be fairly fast. 2025 Special District Risk Management Authority, that's an insurance board. Board of Directors election. Yeah,
Just over to the author, Julie.
Recommendation here is to submit a vote for Commissioner Jane Rowley as this board nominated her to be in this election. Additionally, the commissioners may vote for up to 3 additional candidates. There is a choice of 4 other candidates that the information is about the staff report. So once the commission discusses that and comes up with a recommendation, then we'll go back and submit a vote to SDRMA. Thank you.
This year in the election, there's 4 openings on the board. So and there's 5 candidates running for those 4. Mr. Shankarali is one of those 5 running for those 4 positions. We get 1 vote as a district. So the district has to agree on 4 names, the 4 that we will vote for as a member. The board is made up of member organizations to the SDRMA, which we are a member of SDRMA.
It's so let me just clarify, it's up to 4 people. You don't have to vote for all 4 if you don't know them. I mean, so Jim
Well,
says
let me-
Jim says there are 5 of us, 3 of the 4 or 3 of the 5 are incumbents. So really 2 new people would be going after the 1 seat.
and I'd like to suggest we only nominate Virginia.
mean, vote.
So she doesn't get a
Vote.
split vote. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in
Public
favor,
comment?
say aye. Public comment? Seeing none, thank you, Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to nomination for the California Special Districts Association 2025 Board of Directors election for the Bay Area Network.
Would you
Would you like me to say anything?
We'll wait till Julie does the report.
Is there a report?
This item is for the California Special Districts Association. It provides information on candidates that are running for the Board of Directors, which are in the Harbor Districts Network. Those candidates are listed and all their information is attached. You may vote for one candidate or you can choose to not vote.
I sit on this board. Our friend and general manager for Montero Water and Sanitary is also running. I recommend that we vote with that. I will tell you that this is the most involved, interesting group of the CSDA. We just did changes to the strategic plan to update it. That happens every 2 years. The CSDA is joined in with a group of people working to create a national CSDA so that we can get federal funding for emergencies that special districts can, because right now they're ignored. And so it's very important that we get Jim Clement on that board, because we need people that, not that the others aren't knowledgeable, but we need people with strong inclination for outreach and speaking out. And so I'm going to make the nomination for Jim Pruitt.
Oh. On top of the other 5, or the other 4.
We only get to
candidates.
vote for one.
Yeah, but
Candidates already established, or can you nominate
Or
somebody
you
who's not?
mean Clemens?
Oh, wait, I thought you were running for this.
No.
I get, oh, let's do it for Clemens then. Next year you can,
You could vote for Jim.
I know.
was too.
No,
I-
I suggest I kept putting Jim, I kept seeing the print for Jim. It must be close to
We're talking
Halloween.
about Clemens, right?
So let's vote for Clemens.
You're making a motion for
yes,
that?
for
I'll
Clemens.
second that. I'll second.
Okay, call the question. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Public
Abstentions?
comment, I guess it's a little
No
late.
public comment.
I didn't see any flashing. Good, motion carries. So we will vote for Clemens. Moving right along to item 5. Board needs to consider the electrical upgrades for the Johnson Pier project, and this is a change order request.
There's a motion for the board to authorize the general manager to approve the change order request from the construction contractor and Greenwood Brothers Inc. For the amount of $212,700.47 to continue the Pillar Point Harbor Johnson Pier Electrical Upgrades Project, increasing the total construction costs previously approved by the board by $89,940.47. An additional $100,000 contingency for unforeseen issues which may arise, and increase capital expenditure appropriations for the total of $189,941 by available capital, working capital. Historically, the Johnson Pier terminus, where our 3 fish fryers are, have not had adequate electrical capacity. Therefore, they've had to have large generators, diesel generators out there during the peak times to supplement the electricity that the district has provided them. So subsequently in 24, the board approved, it was in June 12th of 2024, the board approved $1.3 million for the Johnson Pier electrical upgrade project. Subsequently, when our design engineering team put together the design engineering for the request for proposal or for the invitation for bid for actual construction. The design engineering team had no as-built, so we're unable to determine exactly, without bringing on, actually getting into the electrical boxes and underground, we're unable to determine exactly what the need was going to be. So the best estimates were not adequate. It was determined when the contractor was brought on and their professionals looked at it, and further discussion was made with the tenants that an increased amount of electricity would actually be ideal, which could be used in the future as well when we end up doing the larger complete renovation of the pier. So they wanted to increase for their use out there at the terminus to 120 volt, 120/240 volt, 3-phase instead of the 1-phase that's currently out there. So providing these needed additional power created the need for significant upgrades, which resulted in the attached contractor's change order request for $212,747 additional, which is $89,940 over what the board previously approved. And that did include a contingency. So we want to increase the total amount that the general manager can approve by an additional $100,000 contingency for unforeseen issues that may also arise in addition to this amount. So the total amount that we're trying to increase the project amount by is $189,940. Your request is for a total of $212,700.47.
Refresh my memory, what was the total cost of the original contract?
1.3 million.
This report to me is very confusing because it says 1-phase, then they said, no, it's not 1-phase, it's 3-phase. Now we're updating to 3-phase, but the contractor is bringing in a subcontractor to do the work. And then he wants to put the general contractor's 15% markup on that, which is hitting us for an additional $23,000. And I have a problem with that. Marking it up 15% on somebody else's work and walking away with the money for doing nothing. So I'd say we've got to get this general contractor 15% to do something useful for the harbor, whether it's buying us an ATV, golf carts, landscaping, mowers. That this idea of you're incapable of doing the work that you bid for, so you find a sub that can do it, and then you're going to throw a markup on the sub. That just gobsmacks me.
Commissioner McDouche, we can, at board direction, I can go back and attempt to renegotiate. I will just say that I see challenges with these markups as well, but the argument has always been that there are costs by the winning contractor, associated with their doing business. And therefore, when they hire subcontractors or they buy materials, whatever the case might be, they do always, they do mark it up. That is not, regretfully, that's just not unusual, even though it doesn't, as a layman, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I can go back and attempt to renegotiate if the board wants to push this till next month, and I can try to renegotiate if that's the board direction.
I might comment after
Do we have
you.
public comment from the audience? No, okay. I think that's a really cool way of making extra money. It reminds me of several other scams in several other industries where, you call in sick so your friend who needs to get overtime can get some more overtime. I strongly suggest you renegotiate this. I was just reading a report on inflation. For the month of July, it is, I'm gonna take a guess. 0. These add-on costs have been added when there was lots of uncertainty in materials purchases and that kind of thing. I think you need to renegotiate. I think we're in a time of price index stability, so have fun.
Okay, that's up to the board direction. I'm at with Mercy. That's directed.
Would you like a straw poll?
I will say on behalf of the contractor that just from my experience, the government realm, it's just not unusual, the markup that they have in this proposal.
I just look at, we hired Andrini to do it. He can't do it, so he hires somebody else to do it, and then he throws the markup on top of that.
Yep.
The argument too is not necessarily that they purported that they could do it and they can't do it. It's more that they have specialty professionals that they intend to hire and notified us that they would be using their subcontractors and that they do in fact mark that up. And in the original contract, that markup, in the original bid, that markup was included. However, now we are requesting that they do additional work and order additional materials, which they are having to purchase. And there is markup with that, just as there was originally. Bring it back to.
And thank you for the clarification. Moving right along then, here. We are at item 6, and I'd like to combine it with 6 and 7. It makes sense.
That makes sense.
And one will flow into
Do we
the other
need to
anyway.
extend the
Yeah.
meeting? Do we need to extend the meeting?
Let's
do
do
one.
it.
There's no end time on the agenda anymore.
Oh, okay, okay.
That was smart, but we'll be quick. The ad hoc committee is working towards getting a nonprofit 501c3 and bylaws and all the structural stuff that we need to get going as a 501c3. Maybe we want to call it not only Ocean Science Center, but Friends of Pillar Point Harbor or something. We have very energetic discussions with many ideas in a very short amount of time. So we're working on that. We decided today to work on a project called the San Mateo County Harbor District Open what was it? Trunk or treat in our parking lot the weekend before Halloween. This is just in the beginning stages. But I think we can have a lot of fun asking people to decorate up the trunks of their car where it opens up and you get all this Halloween stuff in the back and there's trick or treating and we're working on exactly what other activities we will do. But I think it will be a great community workshop and we should put our posters up at Oyster Point too. Because there's a lot of people from there who come and maybe at Coyote Point and other various marine related facilities. So George, about the public workshop funding.
So some of our activities in the last month had a lot of extensive discussion about those next steps. you know, kind of a quickie. We started all this process with kind of determining, was there any interest? We kind of talked amongst each other and some members of the public that there would be interest. We then took it into an initial appraisal phase where last December we did a survey and overwhelmingly got positive support in developing this Ocean Science Center. The next step is kind of, we need to get into a feasibility. What is feasible? What should we build? What should it look like? How will the community and the research end respond? So in order to do that, we're proposing a series of 2 facilitated workshops. We'd have a formal facilitator that would sit down with a group of people to solicit their information and their support and what they would see this Ocean Science Center to be. The reason for 2 would be, 1 would be focused on more federal, county, state types of agencies that would be looking at the research and what they can get out of it. If there was a research center here for someone, let's say the Northern Monterey Bay Sanctuary people, those kind of activities, which would then kind of focus on what kind of research activities would be viable for this area and what people would like to see. The second one would focus more directly on the education component, what the local schools would like to see, what the community would like to see. If you're at a visitor center, you know, what we should focus on. Do we do a small aquarium type system where we would, you know, then the visitors can see what the local species are, those kinds of things. So we wanted to get those 2 facilitated workshops going. Time target is around the October timeframe, sometime in October. We also had a lot of discussion about grants. So we're starting to get into an area that is taking more and more, you know, staff time from the harbor. And we're looking at, you know, can we offset some of the costs of that staff time by trying to get some grants? So we do have a granting, a company that the harbor uses to look at and obtain grants for us. So we asked them to look at things for us. I know the Ocean Protection Council is very supportive of, you know, grants for educational kind of purposes, the Coastal Conservancy. So there are things out there that they will look at to see if they can get for. So then the final one is on the next page is we developed a proposal for what it would cost for these facilitated workshops. And so you could see that the total cost would be about $13,000 for the 2 workshops. Venue rental, it's kind of a challenge. I think we may be able to fine tune that when we put out the request for people to come and have an RSVP. I mean, if only 10 people are going to show up, we can do that in this room. But if we have 50 or whatever, then we may need venue. I think we'll know better towards maybe the end of August, early September, where we even would have to use that. So you know, we'll play both sides. If we don't get a lot of participation, we can move that. But if we do get a lot of participation, then we would probably, same place where we had our facilitated workshop for the master plan for the harbor, probably one of those locations or maybe something.
Do our best to find a free.
That's always, you know,
Always
the
that?
intent.
Do our best to find a free venue.
I
in other
have,
public buildings.
So we're also looking at, these are probably going to be on the order of 3, I think not more than 4 hours per thing. So we may be able to do 2 in one day. In the morning, we would do the research. In the afternoon, the education. People can then kind of overlap both and then express their interest in those 2. Based on that information, I'm targeting in my own mind, I haven't discussed this with staff at all, of maybe by the end of the calendar year, to have some proposals of what the center should look like. And at that point, we would then get into feasibility. We take those proposals and then start fine tuning in terms of cost, in terms of funding, in terms of location. Do we phase it? We start small, we grow bigger. That's that feasibility phase. All of this will come to the board, obviously, for looking at and for voting on. Hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a meeting and the vote say, okay, here's the direction we want to go. That's, go ahead.
I have a question. So when this, and it's not even really directed at George, but I think to Jim and maybe the whole committee, we were in the process of where are we in the process of getting all of this nonprofit stuff done with the Secretary of State, our bylaws, I mean, to set up this 501c3 so we can get donations? Because I think that's really, really, really important since we have a lot of capital projects in place. So I mean, where are we on that? Didn't we get our tax ID number yet?
I'll bring all that to the board in August with all the different paperwork. And getting board direction on the file and everything else.
Okay, so we're at the very beginning.
Yes,
Documents all been drafted.
we're at the very beginning.
Okay, I thought we were further along because a few months ago, that was the impression that I got. But okay, that's fine. So anyway, I just wanted to find out what the status was of that because I was the president of a board, a friends group board for the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo, which had a partnership with the city of Palo Alto. And we were able to raise money for the friends group because donors didn't think that money was going to go into, their donation was going to go into a government agency, which is a really big deal from a psychological point of view from the donor's mindset, right? So that the sooner we get this thing set up, the better we can, the sooner we can start fundraising and marketing what we want to do to the public and get more public participation in a nonprofit, which I think is important.
Very critical, concur completely, and that's our target. That's going to be
No, but I
very
mean,
important.
we just need to get this thing done because it seems like what's progressing faster than getting the nonprofit set up is asking for public funds from this agency to go into the project. And when we could probably fundraise for, I'm not against this, I'm just saying we need it, it can't be out, the nonprofit setup should not be outpaced by what we're doing in terms of asking for money for this project.
My opinion, this cake is not ready to bake. And I say, no on this until after the foundation, and go ahead and use the grant writer and start looking for money from OPC and these other things. But how can we put this project and say, we're going to fast track this Ocean Science Center when we've got a 5-year capital improvement plan? And this should be at the bottom of that rather than jumping in right at the top. And I'm not against the fundraising or bringing something in, but for our lessees, our tenants, for our slip holders, for everybody, how do we justify saying we're going to spend money on this because we thought this was great and we pulled it out right in the middle? And to me, there should be some hierarchy, and we've got a 5-year plan that lists all these things. So I have to vote no on this until we're further ahead.
Define where. When you say further ahead, what do you mean? That's a pretty
Well, what I
nebulous
just
statement.
said a little while ago is, I mentioned after the formation of the C3, and I said, I'm not against asking OPC or any other groups for money, but don't fund it off the Harbor District funds now. Don't pull it out of that. If you want to pull it out of donations, I mean, this whole thing came up. Somebody was going to fund this whole thing, and that changed. And now I can't see putting Harbor District money in this. You want to get donations or raise money somehow, but I'm not personally going to obligate Harbor funds towards this at this point.
Would you like to make a donation?
No.
Well, there's no 501c3 set up. That's my point. Tom wouldn't make a donation to the Harbor District. But you would make, anyone would rather make a donation to the 501c3. And that's why getting that up and running is absolutely crucial.
Well, and the intermediate step is not to a 501c3 that doesn't exist and not to the Harbor District, but to the founding group to say, all right, let's get this going.
No, I understand,
It's
but
kind
we
of a-
have done,
I
yeah.
think it's kind of like a chicken and the egg kind of thing. Tom wouldn't contribute because he doesn't know what he's contributing to. So the idea here is to take that next little step forward and come up with something like 2 or 3 plans and say, well, Tom, would you support any of these? Or anybody,
I don't think that's the issue, George. I think the issue is we're taking 13,000 where we'd be taking $13,000 that could go to another capital project that's been in front of this project. And so I don't disagree with Tom, but I also agree with Catherine that, you know, you do have to have a founding group, and I don't think $13,000 is a lot, but I do want to hear from Tom. Have you heard from the public, you know, tenants or the fishing groups or, you know, anyone about their thoughts on this? I mean, what are you, I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone.
People I've
about
talked to are kind of shocked that we've come up with this and we've got so many other things to do. And they're kind of questioning that and said, well, it's a board, you know, there's 5 of us to talk about these things. And several of them know where I stand on this. If we get the money from outside the harbor district, not from our lessees, our slip holders, or anything like that, fine, then we can proceed. But I don't want to see obligating harbor funds for something that we just started thinking about recently.
I suggest we table this so that we can work, George and I and the committee can work on this a little bit more and bring it back at the next agenda. Because we're not gonna, I'd rather continue with progress rather than just vote no.
Well, I mean, I would actually be okay with voting for this, but just this one time, because I do think that if we want to have this, and it's a vision too, that I think is important. But this would just be the funding that I would vote for. And I agree with this table it, but I'm just saying, I want to see the 501c3 fast tracked right now.
So do I.
That's what I want to see. And I would have voted for this and only this as a one-time thing until we got the other things set up, because I don't think 13,000 is that much, but I totally get what Tom is saying.
Right, so let's table it
Let's
until
fast
the
track
next
it,
meeting and
yeah.
we can discuss perhaps sources of that, because one of the things maybe we can bring up at the next one after George and I and others discuss this is maybe we can come up with some matching funds. But there's
Tricia,
many different ways for it.
how long would it take to get this? Like I said, I thought we were a lot further along over the last 2 or 3 months. How long will it take to get a 501c3 set up?
I will. And to see where we are in the documents and then refresh my memory of what has to happen after we approve the process. There's filing. I don't know how long it takes.
Secretary of State, you have to get our tax ID number. I mean, you have to have the bylaws. You're gonna have to have a governance structure. I mean, I've set up nonprofits, so you have to have a governance structure too. Do you want to put an ad hoc committee just for that 501c3 thing, or do you want to keep it within your group? Because I think it should be a little separated. I mean, and you don't have to do it now. I'm just throwing
Yeah,
it out there as
let
an
me think
idea.
about it. I have some questions for Trish.
Okay. Yeah, no,
I'll
go
talk
ahead.
offline. No, I'll talk
Okay.
offline with the president about
Okay.
the ad hoc.
Okay, anyway, so like I mean, so if you want to table it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
For just, okay, we got a study session we're talking about, but then what are we gonna fund?
That's what
Where's
this
it
is
gonna
gonna
go?
go.
Where are we gonna build it? And
Well,
there's other
that's
things that have priority.
But no, I get it, Tom. That's why I want to fast track the 501c3 setup. I just thought we were a lot further along than we are.
Well, and in discussing with people where I learn a lot. Like Halloween Funky Creek, which I just learned about today. I've heard of many corporations being housed laptop. You don't need a physical structure. Do that.
You mean a 501c3? What's the risk?
The 501c3. We don't need a physical structure. We can always get a PO box for a mailing address. Maybe in Pacific.
I'm not
it's
even
a
worried
nice
about
post
that.
office.
I'm worried about the actual legal structure of this.
I understand, and I think that's what we need to get the information on.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to table this, and I see no closed session. Am I correct? I didn't miss one.
Future agenda item.
So future agenda items, we've given you a couple ideas. Well, and you have them listed on your handy dandy little sheet of paper. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
All in favor? Yay. We're adjourned.
Okay, 12:09.